Great. So Samir, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell me a bit about yourself and where you grew up.
Oh, okay, good. So I am Samir, and I am a visual designer by my initial formal academic education. And I would just like to share one slide here,
Mm-hmm.
which could be interesting for understanding my uh, how my life unfolded.
Perfect.
So yes, so I'm a fine arts graduate with a major in advertising.
Mm-hmm.
The degree is called as Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I joined it immediately after my K plus 10. Actually, I did not need K plus 12 to go for this. This was a 5-year integrated program where we had a special training of 1 year called as Foundation of Arts, and after that 4 years of degree education. So in all, I learned 5 years, but it was only after my 10th standard. So that is slightly different for many people and many countries that they don't have this practice. So it was unique. And like every advertising student, I also joined an advertising agency uh, to work in the space of advertising and illustration, drawing. And because my major was on drawing, I had a fascination towards animation. So I left my job after a couple of years, and then I joined a diploma in animation filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
That was in another state uh, called Andhra Pradesh that time. Now it is called as Telangana in India. And I learned from Russian animators, actually. They were the masters of animation.
Yeah.
As you all know, Americans are very good at making and marketing animations, but Russians are extremely good in teaching animation. So I was really, really fortunate to have 3 Russian teachers come down. So I was part of the first batch of that course.
Yeah.
So that gave me a nice leverage, actually, that we could learn from the masters at a very slow pace and spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah.
So that's when I started venturing into animation as a full-time career. So after this, I joined an animation studio where we were making animation films. And this was a massive studio at that size, because we are talking about 1998 here, where Indian animation was just about to get to the levels that it is today. So we had a massive studio of around 100 animators with us, and with a very strong Russian teaching at our back, we were kind of a very good bunch of people. However, subsequently, I started realizing that my inclination is more towards academia
Yeah.
rather than entertainment side of animation. Although it sounds really funny and also contradictory, because you learned advertising and animation, which are purely entertainment-based mediums, but I wanted to pursue something in education. So if
Yeah.
you look at the top line right now, you see this a pattern, right? You see a visual pattern here of squares and circles, right?
Yeah.
So this this denotes interesting jump that squares are where I'm learning and paying somebody. On the other hand, the circles are where I'm still learning, but somebody is paying me for that. So it's like that, how I'd like to put it. And it's only after I left my job in the animation studio, because I wanted to pursue educational academic part of it, I actually joined IIT Bombay, which is one of the most premier institutes in India in terms of engineering education. And there I also pursued my PhD in an open university, but with the help of teachers in IIT Bombay who were my guides. But that was one of the moment where the circle was inside the square here. So I was literally getting paid to do my academics.
Yeah.
And that is where I actually got the first brush with how animation as a medium can be used for e-learning. And then I went into management of a lot of e-learning projects for IIT Bombay. I worked there for a long term of almost 17 years. And during that period, I mastered multiple technologies and established myself as a research scientist at IIT Bombay.
Mm.
And after that, I actually have joined a place called as Educational Multimedia Research Center. So I was selected and appointed as the director of that place. This is a unique place because we have only 22 of them in India, uh, educational media research centers. And I am the head of one such organization. So that is what makes me really happy and proud. So
Yeah.
that's how the journey has been.
Sorry, what was that last part?
Yeah.
What did you say there a second ago? Sorry, it broke up for me.
No, I said that this center, the fact that I'm heading the center makes me really proud,
Yeah,
and
sure.
happy because yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of interesting things happen there.
Yeah, you've had a really interesting I really like your visual example. It suits your artistic animatory style.
Right.
Um cool. So you began in advertising. Um does that help in when you moved to animation? Was there things that you took from that when
Uh,
you went into your animation diploma and job?
yes. So one of the uh, integral part of animation. In fact, if you talk to any animation aspirant in the today's age, they would definitely talk to you about the names of the softwares. They will talk
Mm,
about Autodesk and Adobe and Flash and Maya and 3D Studio and different things. However, I have been taught that animation is mostly about creativity. Animation is about your skill of visualizing. Okay, so being in
mm,
advertising was one of the best way that I could learn that. So that helped me a lot. So in
yeah,
advertising, you are challenged every day for producing something creative that will sell.
yeah,
So if you are selling a mundane product like a soap or maybe a talcum powder or uh, anything for that matter, or even a housing complex. But
mm,
still, advertisement needs to stand out. So there are various techniques of doing that, which were taught to me when I was in advertising.
mm,
And that included illustration styles, different ways in which you can draw things. There were various writing styles where you could make creative copy for making it attractive and so on and so forth. So
mm,
that helped me when I came to animation, because in animation, even if you have to make a small piece of maybe 3 seconds, where you just have to animate something which is not possible otherwise using a camera. So, like one of the assignments given to us like was animate, make a movement of a non-living object. Okay, so I was given a Caesar. Okay, so now I have to imagine how a Caesar will walk.
mm,
Now, so I have to figure out which are the legs, which are the eyes, which are the hands of
mm.
the Caesar, and so that helps. So advertising, all the rigor that I had gone through in drawing, sketching,
Yeah,
helped me a lot.
yeah, yeah.
And
Uh,
again, to tell you, because the Russians were my teachers, they were kind of pretty much away from technology. They had a distance with the technology. They used to be
mm,
very angry if they could see us nearby the computer studio. They used to say, go away, niyat." So that is how they used to be really after us. Like, if they don't see a paper and pencil in our hand, they used to go crazy on us. But
yeah,
that I feel, in retrospect, I feel that was one of the best learning I had. So even now, I keep, if you see my table around, you will have all pencils, sketch
mm,
pens, and only that around. That's
yeah,
all.
yeah. And at this time when you were doing advertising, studying it, did you have a strong sense of what career you wanted afterwards?
Uh, while in advertising, I was not, I was pretty raw, I suppose, but
Mm,
I wanted to do something related to illustration. I always had this creativity bug inside me. Like, I always wanted to do something creative,
mm,
and it has to be around illustration, because I knew I did not have a very good camera with me to do a creative photography, or I did not have any other tool with me. So sketching was something which was nurtured over a period of time. Although I'm not a very good artist if you compare with others, but I had a passion for illustration and drawing.
Yeah.
So I thought animation was a very natural progression towards it because it requires these two important. Also, my love for music and architecture helped me a lot because animation is one place where it culminates all these skills into one. For the if you have seen animation films, you need a very good backdrop for your character. So you want to show, like you have seen Hunchback of Nostradamus, then you see this beautifully drawn cathedrals, or you see this Beauty and the Beast and the
Mm,
kind of palace it is shown there. So these illustrations of the backdrops of all these things requires a very nice idea about perspective and architecture. Plus,
mm,
if you see the music of animation films is so amazing. It is full of culture and it is full of different sounds and genre of music. So I used to play Hindustani classical instrument called as tabla, which you can see in the background probably there.
yeah.
That, so that's a Indian drum, and music was in my family. So that helped me a lot
Mm,
to get all these arts together. And I saw animation as one outlet of all these arts coming together.
mm. Have you always felt that you were an artistic person?
Yes, I think, early on in my career, in the sense, when in my school, uh, if I can tell you, my notebooks were mostly checked by my teachers, and the comment to my parents used to be, please ensure this boy is filling up notebooks from the back and with lot of sketches in the back and doodles, and not from the front, which is typically naturally it has to be done like that. When you go
Yeah.
to school, you have to take down notes and other things. But in my notebooks used to be filled up from the back side, so that was pretty evident. So I always wanted to be artist. It was extremely fortunate that I got a family which supported this decision. So
Yeah.
they never asked me even once that what's the career path and how you will go ahead, what would be your goals and things like that. They just said, okay, go with the flow. If you like fine arts, there is a college in our city itself, so don't worry, go ahead, follow your passion. And that's how I came into fine arts in first place. And rest actually was a very natural progression. From advertising to animation was very natural. Animation to educational animation was slightly difficult, but yes, we'll come to that.
Mm. Yeah, can you tell me a bit about that? Your transition from animation to working at IIT Bombay and your PhD process. What was that transition like?
Yes. Uh, uh, from uh, from the days of animation, the animation studio days, I can recall that although we are putting 100% creative inputs in making of the film and creating some very classical animation,
Mm.
however, I was feeling that we have a very limited scope to communicate. I will elaborate on that sentence. The reason being that if I am making a film, for example, even if I make a master film such as Lion King, probably, but the holding power of Lion King is only when you want to have some entertainment. You will
Yeah.
not be able to remember it or appreciate it in your day-to-day life otherwise.
Mm.
So I was thinking that such a powerful medium is not used to the maximum in the entertainment domain. It has its own spurts of peaks whenever we can create a masterpiece. But
Mm.
otherwise, it is pretty isolated at the top. So I always thought that I should be able to communicate much more using this medium. So once I know the tool and the power of the tool, I was itching to use it more and more. And that's when it just hit me that maybe there is an option that animation can be used for educational purpose. So if the kids don't even blink while watching Tom and Jerry, then wouldn't it be interesting to see whether if we can show them earthquake, formation of earthquake and formation of volcanoes and life cycle of a frog,
Mm.
using such technique so that they can probably enjoy it more, and that could be a very new alternative for them. So that was my thought when I came to IIT Bombay, and I asked the teachers who were teaching various subjects, but because they were teaching everything in graduate and postgraduate levels, they said, "Well, we don't know the answer to your question, but we are kind of people who would like to experiment. So
Mm,
why don't you join us? We'll start something and let's see how it unfolds." So it took me almost 2 to 3 years to set up a lab at IIT Bombay,
mm,
where we called it as Open Source Courseware Animations Repository. So
mm,
it's called as Oscar, but the full form is like that. And there we used to go to various departments like metallurgy, mechanical, bio, and civil, and electronic, computer science, and tell them, okay, give us the concept that you feel is very difficult for the learners to understand. So we
mm.
will animate it for them. And this is how we created a bunch of almost 500 animations
Wow.
uh, using this technique. And don't ask me for the software, because we were very flexible about what software we use. We have certain things made in Java, applets. There are, in fact, if you Google for this, I have some papers on how we can create Java applets for animation. Then when we required something more, what is it, classy looking, we started using Adobe Flash. And then we had a restriction that, okay, it is only two-dimensional. We want to make it three-dimensional. We went to an open source tool called as Blender. And so
Yeah.
choice of tool was mostly based on the requirement of the narrative. So if you want to show X thing, then we'll choose the appropriate tool for that.
Mm,
So that's how we progressed. And if you see my early publications, they are all into this domain of how animation can help visualization, how you can use 3D visualization for something X, Y, and Z.
mm.
That's how I started learning this part of, I call it communication, but in computer science language, it is visualization and computer graphics and so on and so forth, which I was complete alien to, by the way, because I don't know any computer science.
That's really interesting. And what were the results of, you said you mentioned you created 500 animations to help students understand these difficult concepts. I know that would have been useful for me. What were the results?
Yes, so the basic target that I was working for is because I came from the animation background, and
Mm,
I knew that mm, there is a big gap between what a teacher wants to say and what the animators can animate. Now, because there are no specialized animators in educational field, most of the animators come from the Tom and Jerry background, and they only know how to create gags and other things. But here we don't want any gags. We don't want any comedy. We
mm.
want the atoms and molecules to behave exactly the way it has to behave in chemistry and physics.
Yeah.
Now, how to connect with these animators was the first problem I thought of solving, because I realized that this is going to be a rather difficult situation. If a interesting animation is being taught by the teacher, and the animator is not able to produce exactly like that, then it is not going to reach the learners at all.
Yeah.
So I decided on working on that part. So if I can just share you this part.
Of course.
So this is from my thesis actually. Okay, I think okay. So here, if you can see, uh, this is typically the flow where the subject matter expert will tell instruction designer and the animator, and finally the animation will be done. But
Mm,
in the earlier phases, what used to happen is that whatever the subject matter expert is telling the instruction designer and animator is creating the animation, there
mm,
used to be a question mark from the subject matter expert. Hey, I never said all these things. What have you animated? This is not what I wanted. So what I did in my thesis was I created, so this was the gray area. So the subject matter expert reaching to the animator was a long process and very complex process. So
mm,
what I did in my thesis was that I created a template, instructional design template,
mm,
which was in the language that the animators understand. and which was also in the language which teachers understand. So whatever teachers were writing was immediately understood by the animators here, and therefore all this thing which I was showing you, this whole jump of discussions was removed, and we have tested this uh, while creating these 400 animations, because the animations are created by people all over the country without actually meeting each other. We
Yeah.
just had to send the template to them and say, okay, here is the script for the animation, create that. And they created that. And it was approved by the subject matter. So that was the outcome of my thesis. So,
Okay,
yes.
cool. That's really interesting. I was going to ask you, can you, so you've touched on how you approach e-learning,
Yes.
and with animation and combining obviously these the person who knows the information and the person who's animating it. Can you tell me about your general philosophy towards education and e-learning? You can go into animation specifically or just in general. I'd be interested to hear.
Can you go into animation?
As in, you can talk about perhaps how you approach e-learning through animation, or how you approach e-learning in general. How do you
Okay,
find
okay.
you can best
This
communicate?
is this is a interesting question, because most of the time, at least in recent time, after the advent of mobile apps and other things, people associate e-learning with animation. So a lot of people think that e-learning is all about creating animated graphics for even for the speaker. Nowadays, you don't get a person speaking directly. You will get an avatar standing there and saying something or something like that, and that people feel is cool. But in my opinion, uh, animation has to be used only when it is necessary. And how do you define that necessary? The necessary is where you cannot show it using a camera. Only then. So I'll give you a simple example. A litmus paper test. Okay, so you have two solutions. You have a paper, and you have to show that, okay, you dip in this, the change of the there is a change in color. Now, if I animate that, for example, I use Flash or I use 3D animation or something, and people are aware that this is animation, then they will never believe that this is happening. They will think it's a computer graphic gimmick, and it is not science. It is not chemistry anymore, right? So, if you have to convince people that this is happening in real, then you have to do a videography of that. So, there actually animation is not a good medium. Like if I have to talk to you, instead of I talking to you live right now, if I say that I'll give you my audio, but you put an avatar of Samir speaking to you, probably the people who will watch this film will not have any connect. Like emotional connect doesn't happen. Even
Yeah.
if when I'm talking to you, I don't look into the camera, but I look somewhere else, you will still feel you are not connected with me. So this is important in certain cases. At the same time, when I have to show, suppose, what happens when iron ore is heated to a certain degree and iron separates out of it. Now, at this point, I cannot put any quality of camera because it will just melt down there. But I can show animation there, where actually what happens at a molecular level, where the iron molecule is getting separated from the ore, and a slurry is getting created. Now, this is where we have to be very, very cautious about using technology. So, it's animation is not the solution for each and every problem in your life. That we should understand first of all,
Yeah.
and then apply it. I think the solutions are going to be amazing after that.
Um, that's very interesting, and it's a good point to make, because there is definitely people do think of e-learning as purely
Yeah, in fact, they get more surprised because the animator is telling them that
yeah.
don't use animation.
The animator
That's
is
the
telling
fact
them
of life.
not
So
to
we
create.
have to accept that. Yes.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm saying that's important that we accept this fact that
Yeah.
everything is not made for to be animated.
Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about your your most recent role. So you're now managing a lab, I believe, and I can't remember the abbreviation or acronym.
Yeah, yeah, I'll do that. Okay. Okay. So the reason why I wanted to show this also, yeah. So you saw this already. Okay. And this is the thing. This place is called as Educational Media Research Center. Okay. And as the name suggests, we are into educational media creation. If you look at the map, we are located almost everywhere in the country. Very strategically planned decision by government that we have one center in every state, almost to cover up the entire country. There are more than 500 trained people working in all these centers put together. And if you realize, all these centers are located on university campus. So this is not a standalone government building somewhere that has all the equipment and recording facilities and animation labs and other things. It is within the university that this building is kept in, so that we have access to academia. And what we have been doing is that the television channels, if you recall, India has a special satellite for educational purposes. It's called EduSat. Okay. And this satellite is used to beam educational programs across the country free of cost. So these centers, EMRC, are responsible for creating video programs for these television channels. And in addition, we are also supposed to cater to the online education portal platform created by India called as Swayam. Now, this is a very mega platform. More than, I think, when I heard last, more than a crore of people actually are completing the course every year on this. A very, very high number.
Yeah.
And we create courses for them. These are the e-learning versions of the curricular courses which are taught in the university. Suppose I work for University of Pune. So a course in the first year of commerce about accountancy and bookkeeping is recorded by my center in a chunk of 20-minute videos plus activities and stuff like that. And entire course is pushed onto this platform for the learners to consume it. And these courses are available for free, but we also conduct an exam in a physical way, so that the learners who want to get a certification for that will go to a place, give the exam, and if they clear it, they will get a certificate. So that's the part. So my center has multiple studios in the house. We have staff members to create the content. We have the production staff, we have the post-production staff, and we have the maintenance staff. That's how. So I am leading a team of around 30 people.
And how has that been affected by the coronavirus pandemic? Have you found it harder to work?
Yeah, the production is affected because we could not open the studios because of the pandemic issue. But on the other hand, our content was extremely appreciated, because that is the point where people were literally scrambling through that, where can I get a course, because I need some videos, because no classes are happening.
Yeah.
So the entire program, like I have given here, 20,000 plus programs were uploaded on various servers and platforms, and they have been used extensively by the learners across the country. Some of the programs have been specifically created in the native language, like I speak Marathi in Maharashtra. So there are programs in Marathi. We have also undertaken a massive translation project. So this content, which is there in the repository of 20,000 programs, is going to be translated in 8 Indian prominent languages, so that the reach out is slightly higher. So all this kind of content creation keeps happening. And that's why this place is called as Educational Media Research Center.
It's incredible how linguistically diverse India is. It's really interesting.
Right.
It must be quite a task to translate this to so many different languages.
Right. It is. Yeah, it is a massive task. Um, I wanted to show you one more thing here.
Mm.
Okay. Uh, like I said, I was in animation and I used to love that particular medium. So I created a course on animation using this open source software called as Blender.
Mm.
Uh, and this is available on the website of Educational Technology Department of IIT Bombay.
Mm.
Uh, why I wanted to show you is that we have created a kind of e-book for this. So as
Mm.
you can see, it's actually a book interface,
Yeah.
uh, and there is a table of contents. And if I just click on maybe a subject, uh, it will go to that page,
Mm.
which has a video embedded
Mm.
and a small activity here below that, which can be answered only after you watch the video. Typically, the question is not a very general knowledge question, it's a very specific question.
Mm.
Uh, so you can play the video from here and mute it so that it doesn't disturb us. You can make it full screen and you can see, yeah, so you can
Mm.
see me again speaking here. And I'm explaining the concept of what is a camera in a 3D software. So we have one camera here which can show me, but at the same time, when I place another camera, you can see that uh, rest of the things available in that particular room. So I have my
Mm.
setup, I have my operator there, I have a printer and my a flag of my nation, and all that thing is there, which is not visible because of the concept called as camera. So because of that concept, I can actually omit the rest of the things and all that. That is what I wanted to explain to the learners. So
Mm.
how to put the camera and how to operate it. And this is exactly the kind of um, what design we have used, so that we have the name of the slide, what topic is being discussed.
Mm.
We have the content also on one side, and then you see the video is embedded inside to
Mm.
show you what is happening here. So this is the kind of production we have created for explaining this thing. And whenever I am showing the software part, we see the entire screen here with whatever keyboard I am using,
Mm.
and you also see the presenter for the emotional connect, like I was talking about. uh, and yeah, so that's how we have created this entire course
Mm.
uh, for uh, animation. So the people who want to learn animation are using this. It's a free downloadable course. You can put a bookmark here, and if you go back to index page, you will see that the color of that particular page has changed to red now,
Mm.
because this is the bookmarked videos. And that's how I have been keeping connect with the changing times of online education. And this course, by the way, has been very popular. It was created in 2018-19
Mm.
along with three of my colleagues, Nitin Iyer and Sneha, who are listed here.
Mm.
And certain lectures are being recorded by Kaumudi Sahasrabudhe, who is my wife, and she's also an animator. Uh, so she recorded certain lectures about this. So that this course has been very popular. In fact, in 2019, uh, this course was nominated as the course of the year for edX.
Wow.
Uh, yes,
Fantastic.
because it has been subscribed by more than 50,000 learners across the world. So that's what is
That's
happening.
That's fantastic. You've really covered every basis. It's very thorough. It looks like a much nicer e-learning experience than one would even be used to, even with fantastic e-learning tools we have today and animation. That's I've never seen anything like that before. It's much better than a PDF anyway.
Yeah, it's much better than a PDF.
Would
Yeah,
you?
that's the point. So we need to use animation where it is required. Now immediately you got fascinated by the page curl and the thing. But if it is used for certain other things, probably you will not appreciate it that much. So that's the point.
Yeah, that's true. Would you like me to, so when I'm writing up this story, would you like me to link to your website, or would you like me to
Yes.
link to the course, or whichever
You can link to my website because then it has all the other links anyway.
Perfect.
So it's much easier that way. I can just send it on the chat, uh, my website probably.
Perfect.
Pretty simple otherwise. Samir S. .wordpress.com, and that should take care of, because that has multiple things. Because I blog on that, I have all my presentations on that. So if you open the website, it will typically go to a page called as profile, and where you'll have my short bio and long bio, and resume and photographs. But it will also have my talks. It will have the blog part, and so on and so forth. It
Perfect.
also has links to my students' work, whatever they have been doing, and that is how things are.
Okay. Fantastic. That's everything. We've covered all bases. Thank you so much, Samir. I'm just going
Yes.
to stop the audio there just 1 second.